celebrate the wins and celebrate the losses. Like, I'm really bad at being very high and very low. And I think, like, one thing, like, if you do want to start something and build it bigger than yourself and have people working with you, I think you have to, like, make sure that you're good, like, yourself. You have to make sure you're mentally good. You have to make sure you're physically good. And, like, those are definitely, sometimes it's tough to get to the gym when you're like, okay, well, I got to keep working because this isn't done yet, or this, we still have so many goals. And it's like, there's always going to be something there.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nicotra, here with my incredible, extremely talented business partner, Mr. Shane Reitzammer. Shane, how are you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. I'm tired of this 100-degree weather here in Dallas, Texas.
110 right
Texas.
now, actually. It's really, really hot.
Too hot.
Well, dude, this has been a crazy, hectic week for both of us, but I am excited to decompress in the studio for a little bit with one of our very special guests who we have, who is one of Fort Worth's finest, co-owner of 12 Midnight Production Company, welcoming to the studio for the first time, Mr. Dustin McLaughlin.
Thanks for having me. That was a hell of an intro.
I feel like I've been getting that kind of frequently, and I'm actually becoming really proud of my intros right now.
The hype is good,
it's
man.
great.
It's well-deserved. Well-deserved.
Yeah.
He does
Dude.
dope work.
Yeah, so Dustin is, our paths crossed not that long ago at the Fort Worth Addies, I believe, for the very first time. But
yeah.
I've been keeping up with 12 Midnight and some of the content coming out that they've been doing, and it kind of hit me out of nowhere. I was like, who the heck are these guys putting out this incredibly dope content that I have yet to hear about, and just came out swinging, honestly.
Sweet, yeah. That's what we wanted to do, you know? Like,
dude,
yeah.
and I don't even know how long y'all been around. I'm going to get to it, but
yeah.
These guys just were like, yo, I got to connect with them because they're doing really cool stuff. And so I have been hyped from the sidelines to see all the cool stuff that you guys have been working on, man.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that, man.
But before we get into that, Shane, I don't even know if you know this. We have a really weird thing that connects all of us. He got engaged in Isla Mujeres.
Come on.
I did, yeah.
Come
you
on.
Too.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
right on.
The Island of Women.
Dude, Island of Women, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Where'd you propose?
At the, I think it was on the South
South Point?
Yeah.
South Ruins? Like,
yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
same.
Nice.
I have a little video from 2017.
Yeah, we have some
self-shot
photos.
it.
Yeah, we got photos taken, and then we actually got like, we were in this one spot, and we just got like a huge wave came up and just drenched us.
Nice.
Like, oh, perfect. They actually, the photos turned out sick.
Oh, that's
afterwards.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, how many times have you been to Isla?
That was my first time.
Oh, what'd you think?
I loved it. It was awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, that was my first time in Mexico, really.
Oh,
honestly.
Great
Yeah.
spot to go,
So
man.
it was cool.
Little
Yeah.
hidden gem.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, and they went down to in the caves, like down like right where the waves splash
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And dude, it's just one of my favorite places in
Yeah.
the world, man. For those who have never been there, it is the
Definitely
best
check it
place
out.
in Mexico that you can spend your vacation. Little 4 miles long by 1 mile wide island, and you just golf cart everywhere, and it's like the sickest like cultural immersive experience for Mexico.
Totally.
Joey got married there too. I don't know if
Yep.
we mentioned that already.
Yeah.
I got engaged and you got engaged there.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I
Yeah.
know, so like random. I
That
feel
is
like
random.
Isla's blown.
Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Isla Brotherhood right
Yeah,
now.
Dude,
that's
yeah.
it. That's it.
So sick, man. Well, we want to dive into your film career and your journey, man. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing in the industry.
Yeah, so right now I'm co-founder and director, still editor sometimes, and all that at 12 Midnight. So we are a creative and production company. Currently we have 9, including myself, 9 people, including myself and my business partner, on staff. We have all sorts of super talented people, from designers to DPs to editors, producers, creative directors, all that stuff, VFX, all that. So that's the only thing that I'm doing now. So I've been, this is our 5th year of business there, and so we started that in 2018, and it's been quite a ride. So it's been pretty fun to grow.
They've been crushing it, man. I love all the stuff I've seen on social, and then I saw you guys at the Addies. Y'all are doing fantastic work. I got to know, and I'm probably jumping the gun. Joey's probably got this question in there.
Okay.
12 Midnight.
Yeah.
Name. I'm so name, origin, that kind of stuff. Why 12 Midnight? What's the story behind it?
I mean, that's like one of the hardest things about starting a company is what do I name it? Everything sounds corny. And it's like, even when you're like going through the list, you probably like skip over one and then you come back to it.
100%.
We were just actually, AJ and I, when we met, we were at an apartment complex is how we met. We were at the same complex. So we had been friends for a little while and we started talking about the business and the idea around it and what we were going to do. And I was driving back from Iowa, which is where I'm originally from. And I was just thinking and trying to figure out this name. And one of my old mentors and bosses, he had said, always told me, burning the midnight oil, like just that kind of thing. And so I was just kind of playing off of that. And I was like, well, 12 o'clock, like 12 midnight is the time of day when a lot of people it's the morning the next day, but everybody like creatives, like especially when you're starting out, you're staying up at that time. And that's when you get a lot of your good work done. Yeah. And so, there's a couple of other meetings there, but that's really like the main like concept around it. But it's when like AJ's a painter, that's when he paints, when I was like freelancing, shooting and editing and stuff, that's when I would do that type of work. And it's when the best work comes out. So
dude, there's something to that. Like as a creative, like once you get into that nighttime hour, like the creative juices just start flowing differently.
Totally.
And I've had to almost like rewire my brain. Like as you start getting up for all these early productions and stuff, you got to like wake up at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning
and be creative.
Yeah. And so I had to like change how I operate, but like going up through college, I remember nights just you edit to like 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and then sleep till 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And there's something to it though, man.
There was a brief moment where we were like, should we just flip our hours?
Yeah.
And then we're like, nah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't want to do that all the time.
Funny. So like so do y'all actually like work into midnight now, like quite often?
No, I mean very rarely. Yeah. Like if something's due the next day or something, if like we have something that needs to get out, we will stay a little later. But midnight is like pushing it.
Dude.
Yeah.
I like finally switched over. I'm like asleep by like 10:30.
That's what I'm trying to do too.
It feels better, but
I'm an old guy. I'm in bed by 9, but I got another kid on the way. But 9 o'clock, I'm lights out by like 9:30. Yeah, 6 a.m. live. It's great, man. Yeah, I had to flip it too. I remember, 2010 is when I started, and then it was like I remember those late nights, and that there is something to it. But I so enjoy now, like I'm sure you guys do too. Once you flip over, you're like, that's great. I have my evenings. I can have a wife. Have a family. You know,
totally.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, tell me about some of the early days. Like, I want to hear like how you got into the filmmaker that you are today. Like, you're now a director, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like your primary thing that you do. With 12.
Yep.
So like, pre you being like this director, what did you do in film, leading up to making you qualified for that role?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so like I'll go back to college. So that's really where it started. I was in school. My freshman year, I was playing at Division III soccer at a small school, and I was kind of like over it at that point. And then I transferred back home, like to Cedar Falls, Iowa's UNI, University of Northern Iowa. And so I was there for a little while in business, and I actually failed out. I was like, I went to class not very often.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, I just really don't care, and I was like, I don't really know what it is that I want to do in my life. And at this point, I'm 19, 20. So then I went to community college, got in a little trouble, and then came back and finished school. But I remember having like a very specific conversation with my dad. And at the time, a friend of mine, Ben Hegarty, he films with Beyonce. He's killing it. He was in the electronic media program at UNI, and I kind of saw what he was doing, and I was like, man, I really like that, and I think I'd love that industry. I'd like to get into that. I like to tell stories, and so I called my dad and I said, hey, I don't know if you're going to like this, but I want to switch my major. And he's like, I don't really care what you do, just get a degree.
Relatable.
And I was like, damn, I thought he was going to be mad at me, So then I switched over, and so I went through that program, and I mean, it was very tailored for like news and whatnot. And so I was like, I don't want to do news. Like, I don't want to be in that world. So I started taking a bunch of electives. I took like a documentary filmmaking class. I took script writing class. I took like a class that where literally all we did was watch Stanley Kubrick films and take tests over them and critique them.
Dope.
Yeah, it was pretty, and it was a night class. It was really cool.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so I went through that program, graduated out of there, and while I was there, I started a wedding videography business on the side because I was like, I just want to make some money. I want to learn my camera, and really that was like what got me the reps on the camera.
Yep.
I was shooting every weekend, and it's like the lights constantly changing, and and so it started off with like 5 weddings, and then 15, and then 20, and it kept growing and growing. So I was doing that, and then while doing that, after graduating, I went and applied for a job at a company called Cartograph, and they're a software for asset management for local governments. So sounds really boring. The brand is actually was really cool and recreated in a cool way. And so I saw the job, saw kind of some of the work they had done, and I was like, okay, well, I could get in with this. And they have healthcare, and I'm about to be off of my parents' healthcare at the time, and I'm like, maybe I should get a job.
Yeah.
You know, and so I started doing that, and that's actually where I met my mentor and boss, Tom Culbertson, and his business partner, Sean Murphy. They were overseeing Cartograph's marketing and design departments. And so I was there for a little while, made a ton of videos with them, created a couple of different video series. One of them was called How We Work, and it was like how these people were using the software to work in local governments. And they were, again, it's like making something boring really fun and cool and interesting was like what the challenge was, you know, every single day. Eventually those guys ended up taking me and a few other people and starting their own branding and design agency. And so there I really like cut my teeth on everything. Like we did full productions where I was having to produce, and I wasn't actually directing at the time there. I was more so just kind of overseeing, working with some other companies and some other guys, and, you know, bringing in the talent and getting the film crew and doing a lot of the production side of it, and then editing it as well. So I was seeing like all aspects of filmmaking at that point, and especially from a commercial standpoint. So yeah, those commercials were really like the first time that I was able to like get a bigger, larger budget production. And then yeah, moving, I got tired of it, burnt out, and I quit. I met my fiance. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I moved to Texas. And I was like, I'm tired of just always making content for other people. You know, I did this because I wanted to do it for myself, and I feel like I've not ever gotten that chance to do it. So I quit and moved to Texas and switched my careers and started selling cabinets, of all things.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I was here for about 1.5 years, and I was like, I miss it. And so I started doing it all over again.
Dang.
And started 12 Midnight with AJ about 1.5 years after moving here. So
how did you and AJ meet, and how did all that relationship kind of come together in 12 Midnight?
Yeah.
birth?
So I moved here, and we both moved into an apartment complex, and it was under construction. And it was me and him were like, I think maybe there was 1 or 2 other people in the same building. There was nobody at this place yet. And the pool was like empty all the time. So I'd always see him walking by, and every day I was like, he's walking by with bags in his hand. He's going shopping. I'm like, what the hell does this guy do? You know? So I was like, I'm walking my dog. He's walking his dog. Our dogs were about the same age at the time. And I was like, hey, what's up? I'm Dustin. Just wanted to introduce myself. Like, I've seen you a couple of times. I don't know anybody here. Like, I knew a few people here. And so that night he was like, yeah, if you want to come grab a beer, let's go grab a drink. And so I did, and went out with him and his wife, and met them, and we became really good friends. And AJ was at the time working as a financial advisor, personal financial advisor for a like private firm, I believe. So yeah, he was working like 3 hours a day, and we now we work like 30 hours a day. You know?
Yeah,
Right. So, but yeah, that's how we met, and that's the original like starting of 12 Midnight. I mean, we were just literally genuinely friends. We had the same art interests, we had the same music interests, movie interests, and all that. And at the time, I was like listening to a lot of Gary Vee.
Yeah,
he was blowing up then, and he said a line of something along the lines of, find somebody who is really good at what you're not. And the financial side, it's not that I'm not good at it, it's that it just doesn't really interest me. And I think, you know, that's something where it's like, I know AJ had that experience from a financial advisor perspective, that he was good with managing money, he could understand that. And so that was one of the early things. But now today, I mean, we're trying to get AJ out of that side of the business. It's more strategic, we want him to be more strategic and less in the weeds on the numbers now. So
you definitely put like a little golden nugget in there with like just making sure that the person that you're going into business with it does stuff that you don't. Yeah. Because so often people they find someone who's another version of themselves and not the other half that they need for the business. So that's super cool. I always say that Shane and I have that, where everything that I hate doing in video production is what he loves.
Yeah. And I wouldn't call it love, but somebody has to do it. So I'm jealous of AJ right now. I'm like, I want out of the weeds, man, which we're working on that.
Yeah, but it's cool, man. And you got to have somebody who is able to support you in the other things so that you can do what you're meant to do. But that's awesome, man. So a couple of things that you mentioned, but one, I want to get into the directing that you're doing now. So it sounds like you had a really extensive background. You did weddings, you worked for the agencies and whatnot. You guys, give me the date that y'all started your company really quick.
I always like kind of botch this a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it was like October 2018. Yeah. So it was like the end of the year, and then 2019 was really our first year, like our full year.
And that's not that long ago. Like that's 4 years ago. So I want to know, like, you have such an impressive roster of things that y'all have directed right now. How did you go about like building that initial clientele and then scaling it to where it's at now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I moved here, I was like kind of over making this just generic brand stuff, and like nothing against any of that. Like it was good, it was fun, it was awesome. But I was like, I want to do something more interesting. I want to do music videos. Like I really was into music at the time. When I had left Iowa, I was doing I was shooting a lot of photos for Codfish Hollow. It was this barn in Maquoketa, Iowa, and they had Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, Dinosaur Jr. Like there were some pretty cool acts that came through there. And I was able to photograph them. So I was really into music at the time and shooting music. And so one of the first things I did when I moved here and got a camera again, I started just Googling like up and coming musicians in Fort Worth and sending out DMs. And there was like one person who responded, and that was Abraham Alexander. And that was really the first like, it wasn't a big budget music video, but larger artist he's now is much bigger. But Abraham, at the time, that was when we did the Stay music video in the pool. And so, and then I just, from there, I mean, meeting Abraham and becoming friends with him opened up a couple of doors in the music industry. And then also just other like creative groups and stuff. I started just putting myself in these different creative groups and trying to get involved and meet people and go to events. And Fort Worth has like a really cool arts film scene, and they do a great job of having events and making it inviting, and you can come in there as an outsider. You could be from out of town and you could feel like super welcome. Somebody wants to get to know you. What do you do? What are you good at? And
Southern hospitality.
Yeah, it's cool, man. So I think that was really like where I started, there like with Abe. And then there was a place called Black House at the time. It was literally a house that they painted black, and they had parties and all sorts of different things going on there. So I just met a lot of the people that were there, a lot of the musicians, a lot of people that would be on stage and whatnot. And so, I just started connecting with them, and that's really how we started doing
That's
it.
Sick.
Yeah.
Dude, I watched the Abraham music video, and I was really impressed by it. And I wanted to ask, like, even just how y'all did it, like with the pool, the underwater scenes, how you went about directing that, and what went into it. Yeah,
I mean, that was also like super nerve-wracking, because it's like, there's two things. It was not a huge budget, so we didn't have a big crew. And Abe is like, at this point, he's like, I'm all in. Like, whatever we got to do to get the shot, like, I'm there for it. So I was like, okay, well, this is my first directing debut for something of this like caliber in music. And we had floaty rafts that we were using as like dollies. We were, we had one light, like the underwater shots, we put in like a $65-$70 water housing bag. And it was, we put this was AJ and I getting a credit card, buying a camera and buying a lens and buying a gimbal and like maxing out the credit card. And then we're like, let's put it in a $65 bag and see if it works. So that was like really nerve wracking. But once we like saw what we were getting, it was like, man, this stuff looks so cool. Like, you know,
you would never tell by like the quality of that video that's what went into it. Man. Yeah, it looks really well dialed.
Thanks, man. 4 a.m. I think was the call time on that one.
Golly. Yeah, because y'all had to have it like actually dark in the pool so that you could light it up and get that dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, we needed the sunrise, like the biggest thing, and that was like, it was all natural light, and then we had one like 1K light, this old school like. It was not even, I think it was like a tungsten light. It was just like, it was not great.
Little Mole Richardson.
It just worked. Yeah, I mean, it was fine.
That's awesome, man. So I also saw that y'all did a music video with Avery Burke, too. She's actually like a childhood friend of mine.
Oh, really?
We grew up together.
Cool.
So I saw that come out. I was like, man, dude.
I love Avery. She's awesome.
Yeah, she crushes it, man. She's been working hard at what she does. But so is music videos the main thing that you're pursuing? Like, if you could just choose any path to go down, is that like your bread and butter?
That's a great question. And we get kind of like that stigma is that's all we do. Yeah. But I think really like we want to make brand films. Like we want to push the envelope in the creative space. Eventually we want to do film, like our own films, original content, original movies, original short films. It's just like right now it's stair stepping, and the music side is just one of those like fun outlets that you get a break from some of the building blocks, you know, that you have to get you to that next level. There's always going to be some of that work that you don't want to do maybe until you get to that spot. So I think like that's really what we see is like we're able to use techniques that we wanted to try, or we're able to flex a little bit of, hey, we know we can do this thing. These people that do these brands don't have this budget, but let me go show them how I can do it and then sell it later. So I would love to, if I could just make a ton of money doing music videos and just do music videos, I'd love that. But I don't know if that's the reality or not, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think we right now we're kind of doing all of the brand work and stuff as well too. So TX Whiskey is one of our big clients, and really one of the things that's broken us into not only the spirits industry, but from a branding perspective as well too. So.
Yeah. And I saw y'all had that video, that behind the scenes video from that shoot. It went like semi-viral, like in the like film like community space. Yeah. Dude, it was so sick. Anything like from that shoot that like stands out? Because that was a really cool behind the scenes. Y'all took the dolly and then it goes top down.
This is the one I sent you, right? The video.
I think he sent me this, and I was like, dude, this is 12, bro. Yeah, like, this is so sick.
I'm like, oh yeah, they're in Fort Worth. I'm like,
yeah. We have a couple behind the scenes videos, and that's one thing that we try to do is really because then, like from a client perspective, a lot of people see those and enjoy those more because then they can actually see like what we do. And so that's kind of, again, back to the original content side of it. It's like we're trying to make our own original content with the behind the scenes videos. So on that one in particular, that was the TX holiday shoot. So this was something that we had come up with as a team, and we had a lot of our whole team working on this thing, but we had a big crew there, and I mean it was a decent sized production. So the shot that you're talking about, we had a Fisher dolly, and we didn't have like a crane, or we didn't have anything else, and I was like, I wonder if we can get this like shot of her running around the bar, and the camera comes in like kind of eye level or maybe even below, and then comes up over top and goes over top of the drinks, and then she can make the drinks. We could ramp through this. It could be a really cool shot. And I was talking with Tony, our grip. He's a badass, Tony Thomas. There's actually a little highlight reel of him in the full behind the scenes of him rigging up the dolly. But we were having like so many complications with that shoot because there was a lot of locations. We didn't have enough set designers on set. That was our fault. We didn't put enough people there. So like we learned like that was a mistake. We should have had 2 groups of set designers building out this room and then building out that room. And so there was just like we were already behind at this point, and then we start going to this shot, and I'm like trying to get this super technical shot, and Dylan, our DP, was like slipping. His feet were slipping because the Fisher was getting up so high up, and you're starting so low. And so then Tony came in to save the day and like rigged up this foot peg for Dylan to kind of brace himself. But I mean that shoot went about 2 hours over into overtime. And so like we try to avoid that as much as possible. And right when we wrapped up that shoot, it started like raining super hard. And so it was like just problem after problem. But I think like what we took away from it was like, we can solve problems like as a team. We just have to keep like a level head. And there was definitely like some stressful times. Like there's a moment where I'm like, you know, I'm like, oh my God, like, are we even gonna make it through this thing? But yeah, I mean, I think like that's just having a team behind you. Like you feel obligated to like step up and like, you know, take the moment and make something of it. And then 2, you feel like you can step up because you have the support team around you. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tough shoot, but it was one that I think made us like better as a whole.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love that face. I feel like I try. So I do a lot of directing, producing for our company, and I try not to have people read my signs. But Joey can read them, and so we were on this hospital client set, and we were working with a bunch of young children, and I was having the worst time trying to direct like 7 or 8 5-year-olds that they gave me.
Rough, dude. Kids
and Joey just looks at me and goes, "We're gonna make it."
Yeah.
And I'm like cutting all my shots, and I'm like, "Yeah, the video's gonna be 10 seconds long."
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That
was
feeling,
a shot
man.
that I said we have to. Like in the video, I'm even like, if we don't get this shot, we're not gonna have enough.
Yeah.
I was like, we have to have this shot.
So
if we go over,
we got to do it.
We'll pay everybody.
Yeah,
it sucks. We won't make as much money.
Hey, we saw it. We were sharing it. We were like, "This is dope, man.
Yeah.
How do they do this?" So we had to ask you on the show.
That's cool, man. So I love that you had like the vision for that shot, that you were like, I want to bring this to this film. So talk to me about your process. Like when you get a script or when you get, you know, a spot that you're doing, talk to me a little bit about the process of how you go about crafting your master vision for that individual project.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think that's something that everybody does a little bit differently, but some people are still like struggling to find how to do that. And I think for me, like I feel like editing is still one of my strongest things. And so that's what I've really leaned on to like help tell a story. And I think everybody that is some sort of filmmaker should go like write, script, shoot, edit, and do your own thing for yourself, so you can see all of those different aspects of it. But I think like my process is like, now we start talking about a video concept, like I see the edit, like I can already see what's happening in my brain. And so it's just like being able to like sit down and put headphones on and put it on paper for me, and just like say, okay, this is like, I just start with generalities, like this is a wide shot, this is, you know, a close-up, this is an extreme close-up, and then I'll go in back through and be like, okay, I want to be more detailed about now what is the framing, and then what is the camera movement to get us to that frame. And so yeah, I just kind of like I envisioned the edit as a whole, and then kind of work backwards from that and say, okay, I need to just start shot listing this thing, and then obviously looking at the script and like lining up where the shots should come in. But
well, and I actually think that having a background as an editor makes you better at every role in a film production.
Totally.
So like if you have done extensive amount of editing, you're going to now shoot with the edit in mind, which if you've never edited a film and you're shooting, like there's a disconnect between knowing what you need as a shooter operator.
Definitely.
And then knowing what the film needs for the final edit.
Yeah.
And knowing what you don't need, right?
Exactly.
I can lose this shot, still have my picture.
Totally. Yeah. Which happens all the time.
Right.
It's like, I got to cut this because we're going to run over on time.
Right.
But I can get away with it.
Same with directing though, like knowing like in an edit how things piece together because you've done it, it helps you tell a better story more effectively, more efficiently, utilizing your time better, your crew better, and the resources that you have for a project.
Totally. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So both of you guys are directors, so I always love talking with directors, but what do you feel like makes you unique as a director that, you know, you tell story, like what about you helps tell a unique story in your directing style?
This is a tough question.
Yeah, that is really tough.
But like, you know, it's like I think about it even for me, like as a DP, and it's like having a background, because I did weddings too.
Yeah.
We all have lots in common.
Yeah,
Isla, weddings,
yeah, right.
editing.
But I actually think my background as a wedding videographer is one of my competitive advantages as a DP, because you're forced to do so much quick thinking on your feet.
Totally.
By doing events that happen like with high stress, high pressure, it happens once, getting really comfortable at doing those, I feel like I can work faster on set as a DP because I've had to work faster for a lot of my run and gun career.
Yeah.
And I also feel like being a skateboarder has helped me as a DP, because the way I think about things, I think from the background of having to fail 1,000 times just to land like one thing.
100%.
And so like that persistent mindset is something that I feel like I bring to filmmaking.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm like, what unique background do you have, or what unique perspective, or what's even important to you in a film, right? Because certain things are more important to other directors than other directors. So from your perspective, what do you give to films that you feel like makes them really unique?
Yeah, I think one thing is that I've always just been able to, like, direct or like help people understand what the goal is of something, and like I'm quick to understand what somebody else wants, and so I can be like, okay, rather than, we don't need to have a 30-minute conversation about this thing, like just tell me what you're looking for, I'll get it, I'll make sure that I'm getting it from you, and then I can get that information to everybody else. I was also like, growing up super disciplined. I was in wrestling like my whole life, and that was like a very tough sport, and there's a lot of discipline, and I think that also helps me like sit down and be like, okay, I need to figure this out, I need to plan this out a little bit, because I want to make sure that when we get to set, everybody feels comfortable. And it doesn't always happen that we get every detail planned out, but I think one of the things that like why people would want to work with me, or why they would like my style of directing is I think I work well with others. I'm not like, this is how we're doing it. I'm like, hey, here's the thought, any ideas? I want opinions, and I want people,
So you're very collaborative when
100%.
That's cool. Because I know some directors, they're like very tight with their vision, and they don't want a lot of outside noise, but I think it's cool having that collaborative especially with like your DP and your G&E crew and everything, and even your editing team in advance, and just knowing like what's possible.
You got to trust like others around you and like let go of control. And I think that's something that I've been able to more recently kind of figure out and do. It's hard. Yeah. Especially when you do it all yourself at the beginning, like everybody does in this industry. And then you have to be like, okay, you can handle the camera, but this is kind of what I would do. And it's like, it's really tough, because you're just like, you have to trust the people around you. And I think that's like one of the other things is just like letting the people, the department leads communicate to their departments and let them kind of add their little spice of what they want to the video.
I love it, man. Well, one of the films that you directed that I was super impressed with was the Chase Rice music video.
I didn't direct it.
Oh, you didn't direct that one?
I was executive producer.
Okay.
So Kaiser Cunningham was the director on that one. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Yeah. Well, I still want to learn about it, because that was a really impressive project, and it looked like y'all just crushed that film. And y'all dropped it right around the same time that we had done a Western commercial, the NFR, NFR commercial. I want to know like what went into that project and how y'all made that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, Kaiser actually and I met through a Facebook group called Black with No Cream, and Ben Haggerty, the guy who I mentioned earlier, he's the one who started that. He was on tour with Beyonce at the time, started this creative group, and it became like this. It was very like underground at the time. They were starting this podcast, and they were having all sorts of really cool creatives in there posting their work. It was kind of like a Discord. And I met Kaiser through that, and so we were just kind of chatting back and forth about work, and he was just kind of starting to get into the industry at the time. Years later, he's like creative director for Chase Rice, and we are still in contact, and he's like, hey, we want to shoot a music video in the stockyards. And I think like 2 months before, he was actually here with Chase for a show. So I met him down in the stockyards. It was the first, I'd been talking to him for like 2-3 years. First time we met in person. And so I met them down there, and I was like, yeah, well, like we'd love to do it. If you want to bring it to us, like we'll be the production company, we'll executive produce it, you can direct it, and we'll handle all the logistics, and we'll make sure that everything's there for you. So that was honestly like, at the time we had just finished a production for the Clyburn, which is a piano competition in Fort Worth. It's like the Olympics of pianists. It's a crazy, crazy thing. And so we were doing this. We had already just gotten this big production. We had 2 film crews running. We had 5 people in the post side, you know, and we were contracting a lot of this stuff out. So like felt very confident in our ability to build a solid team around this thing. And so like what we had to do was Kaiser sent us like a 1-pager, and it was, here's what I want. And, you know, I looked at it and I was like, okay, but like we need a lot more info. And so we just started building out a deck of what this, you know, what the cinematography could look like and what the lighting could look like and where the location opportunities are. And so there's a lot
Where'd
of work.
Where'd y'all shoot that, by the way?
We shot it at a place called the Brand Room on Exchange Avenue.
Nice.
The Brand Room has like 3 little spaces, and I saw it and I was like, this could be really cool. Like it's got to be 1800s. So there can't be any neon on the walls, you know, like it has to be very old school. And they had like some brick or like brick and mortar type, you know, interior. And when we got in there, Dylan Rucker, the DP of that, he was actually from Nashville. He's very, very talented DP. Him and Kaiser, they're like, we're going to just use one room. And I was like, okay, like I thought you guys could use the 2 rooms, you know, maybe, but they were like, we're just going to use one. And I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, man, I don't know. And then we started working through it and started setting it up. And this was like letting go of control. You know, I was like, I trust him. You know, he's very talented. So, and, you know, a few minutes in, we start setting it up. I'm like, okay, I see it. Yeah. You know, I get it. And so, yeah, like on that, our team, we had to crew out, between cast and crew, there was about 50 to 55 people on the whole thing. So, I mean, the production insurance, the, you know, massive things that were happening. And then like all these guys show up that were in 1883 and like, they're already dressed, you know, we have wardrobe, we have hairstylists, we have makeup, we have like full crew. And some of these guys are in their full fit at like 6 a.m, you know, and we're like, we're not shooting till noon. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, well, sweet. But then like, they got a gun on their hip, and I'm like, okay, we got to like check all these weapons. Now I didn't think about this, you know. And it was like, now we got to check all these weapons, and that was a 1-take shot too, and so there was so much walkthrough. We pre-lit the day before. We had like a quick meeting about what the blocking would be, and then the walkthrough. We did that without Chase multiple times. Then we brought Chase in to do a walkthrough. And then we started doing takes, and I think we ended up taking it 21 times. Wow. And I think we had actually used like the 20th take. We just did the, you know, the safety. One for safety. Yeah. But I mean, it was a challenge because you had to get people to move out of the way. And then there's a whole scene where they come together and do like a little line dance. Yeah. And so we had to move like all the extras are pulling tables out of the way. And it was just a lot of coordination. And shout out to Carolyn Bailey, who was our first AD on that. She was, you know, on her shit that day, and she was just killing it. And we got out of there like 2 hours early. That's so sick. That happens as well.
Yeah, to make up for the time you're 2 hours late.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Dude, that's so sick. I want to know like how you approach doing music videos in one room, because I feel like that's such a challenging thing to keep interesting, especially when you go from like after the first hook to the second verse, and still like keeping an audience's attention. So what is your advice for like holding attention for an audience in a music video on that second verse when you're only in one room?
That's a really good question too. I think that is like more so like just keeping the thing moving, like keeping movement. Like we had every time the camera would go to a different spot, these people in the background or on the side, or they have to be in character, you know? So it's like, hey, you didn't take that shot. You need to take that shot when the camera passes you, you know, the guy's throwing down the cards at the poker table, the guy's talking about, you know, kind of getting into it over the middle of the table. And then there was like a whole fight scene. Yeah. And, you know, when Kaiser told me the idea, I'm like, you're out of your mind, bro. Like, this is not going to work. Like, there's no way we're going to get this all done. But like, as we just kind of kept talking through it, and I'm like, there's no way we're going to get this dance thing. It was super easy. Like once we actually figured out what the plan was, I mean, I think keeping that interest was also like on Kaiser for, you know, he was the one directing that and making sure like, okay, Chase is going to be starting sitting down, and then he's going to stand up. He's going to have a cigar. He's going to walk through here. He's going to hang by the piano for a second while the guy's playing, and then the camera's going to go off of him and go around the table. So then it's like we put Chase in a different spot. And so using every corner, every angle of the room, and like getting him off camera sometimes to kind of put him in a different location and like build up to that.
I love that.
So yeah, I mean, it was, again, like Kaiser and Dylan Rucker did a lot of the creative work there, and I just, was there for a sounding board for Kaiser and the team. So
that's awesome, man. Well, I think a lot of one, it was a super impressive video, so hats off to your whole team. But I wanna. There's a lot of our listeners that love doing music videos like all of us.
Yeah.
But they're not filming Chase Rice music videos yet. And so what, we've all done like the indie run and gun, like music videos and whatnot. But what advice do you have for people coming up in the music video space who are trying to make a name and make interesting videos? What advice would you give to those people who are trying to break into the music video game, but they don't have a budget of that size?
Yeah, I mean, we recently, I guess not recently, it's just not out yet. We filmed it in July of last year. We filmed a video visualizer, we're calling it, for Brandon Marcel. He goes by the name of Marcel. His music, all of his new music is not out yet. And so we're waiting for that to release. But when we filmed that, like, Marcel's he's not got a huge following yet. He's really got killer music. The dude's one of the most talented artists I've ever met. And he's not got the budget, and I totally get it. Like, I don't have the budget to make my own music video for $100,000 right now either. So I think, like, what we did is we said, okay, we can film this visualizer. It's like one location. It's kind of like this specific take. I don't want to give too much away, but we figured out this like looping situation of how this video can loop. And so like it allowed us to, first we called in a lot of favors. So make friends with everybody in the industry that you can, and call in those favors and do favors for others too, to make sure that you can get that, and do the favors without expecting anything either. You know what I mean? And I think that's really like, we're just genuinely, we want to make cool shit. And at the end of the day, that's like what we were able to do with this, is like every G&E person that was on it and every camera person that was on it, they're able to like flex a little bit. And so it took it from a 12-hour day to a 6-hour day, and we're getting this one single take. So we got to light one scene. We don't have to light multiple scenes, and we can actually like sit here and focus on this. It had a really cool, that video has a really cool long, slow zoom. And so there were some definitely like camera technicals that were happening through it. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be my advice, is like dumb it down. Don't feel like you have to be like, well, we got to show them as a kid, and then we got to show them in their high school, and then we got to show them at the skate park, and then that's what creates so much time and money. And so just find a space where you can make a story, and make it in one spot, and just make it more efficient, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
love
man,
that.
I hear this struggle. And it's good to hear, because we've had this too. But like when we do a music video, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna push it back and push it back.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see this video that you're talking about. When we had the same thing happen with a lot of different artists over time, and I think we might. I don't know if we still have one like in the backlog too that hasn't been posted, but we did like a 6 music video series, and we were so excited to show the work. We're like, oh, this we'll be able to attract more work like this. And then dripped it, over like the course of a year, I felt like it was.
Yeah, and we had one shot in our reel that we put in there, because I was like, man, we filmed it this year. It was cool. Like I asked Brandon, I'm like, man, can we throw this one clip in here? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. So
yeah, that's dope.
But yeah, man, and I think like that's making the friendship connection too. Like me and Brandon are tight, like outside of the music. Even if that stuff wasn't happening, we'd still be friends, And I think like that was really the one thing that gets you to find those people. Like with Abraham, with Brandon, I was able to get the Leon photo in his album, and so like that was like connection from those guys to be able to get that bigger thing, and it, not even that wasn't like a great payday either, but it was like a really killer like thing for my resume, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of times the things that aren't a great payday can be the stuff that helps build your portfolio to help get you that next big payday.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of my favorite passion projects that I did for nothing or I paid to accomplish are what helped get me into the door to shake hands with the right person to get the next paycheck. Yeah. And so it's a huge thing and we were even talking about on our last episode, you know, a lot of times if you are given an inch, like a creative inch, but you take a mile, even if you don't get paid for it, it will help give you the next project to pay you for the work that you did on the previous.
Totally. And AJ, I mean, AJ, my business partner, he's really, really good at creating those relationships to get to get that work and then to keep it too. Like, I think that's one of the hard things is like keeping that work and keeping those relationships because there's so many people out there making stuff. So it's like, there's no reason that somebody can't just say, oh, I want 10 different directors to direct my music video, each of my music videos. But that's one thing that, you know, he's really taught me is like just making sure like you're following up and like caring about the person that you're talking to, like actually give a shit about them.
Yeah.
A little bit, so.
So cool, man. Well, dude, you guys have built like a really impressive company. It's been really tight to watch it just from the sidelines, watch all the projects that y'all are doing. For someone who is on the come up and looking to, you know, they're building their studio or they're building their indie film career, do you have any advice that has really made an impact on you and how you've been able to just, you know, expand and excel your career for the next up and comer?
Yeah, I think definitely be patient. You know, like it feels like it's come up really fast, but it's been a lot of work. Like there was the first 3 years, AJ and I both had a job on the side, you know, and it was tough. And so I think like that's one thing is just making sure like you're patient with it. And then also like celebrate the wins and celebrate the losses. Like I'm really bad at being very high and very low. and I think like one thing, like if you do want to start something and build it bigger than yourself and have people working with you, I think you have to like make sure that you're good, like yourself. You have to make sure you're mentally good. You have to make sure you're physically good. And like those are definitely, sometimes it's tough to get to the gym when you're like, okay, well I got to keep working because this isn't done yet, or this we still have so many goals, and it's like there's always going to be something there. My fiance, she tells me, oh, this one time I had got free tickets to Kid Cudi at AAC, and like I love Kid Cudi, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go, like I'm so busy. And she's like, just go, like work is gonna be there tomorrow. And so I was like, you're right, like I'm just gonna go. So I did, and so it was like one of the most fun concerts. Like it was super killer, you know. And I was like, I'm so glad I did that. So I think just like being there, you know, being present like in your life for your, whether it's your family or your friends or your people around you, but like not getting too lost in the sauce of like making this thing. You know, you got to step away from it sometimes and just like look at what you've done so far and just keep building it. You know, don't get too caught up in like, oh, that was tough, that didn't work out. Oh, that was awesome. Like this is crazy. We're going to be huge, you know, like you got to keep it level.
Love that, man. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been working on this year, is to try to get re-grounded in just like friends, health, my personal, you know, mental health and all of that, man. And you can't get lost in work at the expense of those things.
Yeah. Although it's still a struggle. He did show up to the podcast today and told me he hadn't eaten in 18 hours. I was like, Joey, bro, we got to get you some food. And then I'm over here like, the gym thing hits hard because like since 2020, I'm still using they shut the gyms down. I'm using that excuse, you know? And so I can work the extra hours. So anyways, but I feel you, man. That's a great priority, is so important. And like you said, the experience, like one of our pillars is experience is everything. And so it's just enjoying the ride too, right? Like, you know, I love that you said celebrate the losses, because that's really hard to do. And over the past several years, like we just had, I won't say on the podcast what happened. We had this huge internal issue, and you know, we're laughing about it. We're like, dude, this is gonna make a great bit in a TV show that we'll make one day. You know,
totally. So, that's one thing in our BTS videos that we always do, is try to show some of the like not so pretty side. You know, because it's not all gravy, man. There's definitely tough moments on production sets, and it's a fast industry. So I think it's like you have to be a little like, you know, we see all the cool shit that happens out there, and we're not sitting there like, okay, like everything that we do is perfect. There's no way. Like you can't. So
It's very relatable, man. Well, before we get to our final 5 questions that we ask every guest, what is next for you, man? What's on the goal sheet for you for the rest of the year or the year to come, and any other exciting projects on the horizon? What's next for you, man?
Yeah, we got a couple projects coming out. There's one with Abraham Alexander and Wilder Woods that was filmed in studio. It was basically them recording this song. Their label Dual Tones releasing an album coming up in October, I believe. So I think that's coming out in October sometime. And then obviously, like, hopefully Brandon's video can come out whenever. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of other projects going on right now with TX, and then with Pernod Ricard on the spirit side. The alcohol industry has treated us extremely well over the years. AWC, which is like their whiskey collective of all their American whiskeys. We've been doing a lot of work with them too, and so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And then I'm sorry, what was the first?
Oh, just like goals for the rest of the year.
Yeah, the goals. Man. Yeah, so we just opened up our own space. So it's the first time that we've not been in a co-working space. So it's like kind of not a step backwards, because the place is killer, it's kick-ass, but it's like, there's only one bathroom, you know what I mean? Like there's not a full kitchen, so like we kind of got spoiled at some of these places. But I think like that's really what's next, is like we've gotten settled in there. And so there was a pretty tough moment where we did get settled, or we were like building this thing out, is taking longer, and we weren't like quite settled in yet. And then we had 2 guys have babies back to back, 1 month apart from one another. And so that was like just a really like tough moment to be able to like, okay, we're having to work through this. We didn't have a paternity leave in place. We had to figure that out, you know? And so we did. And like we treat everybody, like we try to make sure that everybody's like super happy at work. Like we work 4 days a week. Monday through Thursday. We're off on Fridays as much as we possibly can be. We have 401k, we have healthcare, everybody's on a salary. And so, yeah, that's the next goal, is to just like keep moving that thing forward and kind of get our sales back to where they should have been, just from that little lull that hit. But yeah.
Dude.
I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking, but 2020 when COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
How did that affect? Because you kicked it off right at the end of 2018. 2019, you're probably going full speed, and then 2020 happened. And I'm always curious, like, it ended up being one of our best years, 2020, because I think everybody knew that. But we were doing a lot of brand and corporate and, you know, hospital content. But how did the COVID thing affect you guys as well?
Yeah, it was tough. Like, there was definitely like 19 was really, we had a lot of success but it was just AJ and myself, and we weren't paying ourselves a dollar. You know, everything that we had sold went back into the business. I think at the end of the year, we bonused ourselves out like $3,000 or something, you know? And so it was like, we just kept all the money in the business. And then the next year we had like this South by Southwest thing lined up, and we had all this stuff. And then it was like, boom, it was gone. It was like $200,000 of business just gone. And that hurt us. Like, you know, we took a hit, but we just, timing wise, it was like super lucky. We didn't have any full-time employees at the time. It was just AJ and myself. We had these other side gigs that were a little like supporting us. And then, you know, we ended up end of 2020. We got to a spot to where we could hire our very first employee. And so that would like, we've never been ready to take one of those expenses on like that, like a bigger expense like that. But it was like, we need somebody to do this. So we have to take the risk, like from a financial perspective, a smart risk, a calculated risk, but we have to take the risk to get there. But yeah, so then, you know, adding after that, it's been 2021, and then 22 has been our best year of business. So we've just continued to scale, and from end of 21 till now is when we've pretty much added everybody else. So a lot of everybody else came after that 2020 year. So
yeah, explosive growth, man. Congrats in 3 years. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Super, super cool. Well, it's been, like I said, it's been amazing to watch you guys from the sidelines. And I want to respect your time and get you out of here. Before we do, we got 5 questions that we like to ask every guest,
cool.
man. So the first question for you is, if you could go back and do it all again, what is one thing that you would do differently in your film career?
If I could go back and do it all again, I think that I would definitely, like, I would have went to like a film school, probably more so than just like a traditional. I was in sales. So I think if I could go back again, I would try to like just reset like where I want to be in my career. Like if I knew where I was going to be, I think I would have planned it a little differently. I might not have went to school right away. I might have even gotten into the industry. But yeah, I think like if I could start over, I would probably at least like just go start at that trajectory.
Yeah.
It'd make it, I'd probably be 5 years ahead of where I am now, you know? So, but yeah, I think that's what I'd do.
Beautiful, man. I love it. What is one thing that excites you most about the current film industry or market?
I love like all the stuff that's coming out, all the young, like cool, fun, exciting stuff that's coming out, from film perspective to music videos to brand work, like in all the companies, like especially here, like in the DFW area, there's just so much excitement and growth around film and television and production. And I think that's just cool because it's like everybody knows it's up in LA. Everybody knows it's in New York. Like they know that those are Atlanta, you know, it's like DFW has that opportunity to become like the next like Atlanta, and Atlanta is just even becoming more and more. Yeah, it's huge.
And there's a huge indie like scene happening in DFW and Austin and like Houston, even, and some of these big Texas cities. It's exploding right now, and it's exciting to be in the middle of that change and be a part of it too. You know,
totally.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you can give filmmakers trying to grow in their craft or in their business?
One piece of advice, I guess, would be like what I said earlier is just like try to keep it level. Try to make sure that you like aren't like being too hard on yourself, but also take constructive feedback. Like understand that not everything you do is perfect, and it probably won't ever be. Even to this day, I rely on other people to look at and make sure, hey, am I making the right decision here? Do you guys do you feel this, get the same feeling that I'm getting from this cut, the way we're cutting this, or should we cut this quicker? I think like take that constructive feedback and grow with it. Like every production that we do, we're sometimes not very good at it because it's just tough to do everything, but we try to do like a post-production meeting at the end to be like, what went well, what could be better. It's never really like what went wrong, because we don't want to like harp on like these bad moments, but it's like they're learning opportunities, every single one of them. And so I think make sure that you allow yourself like some brain space for that and some time to do that.
That's a really good idea too, just doing that post-production like debrief on like what could be improved.
Yeah.
Because not only does it set the rest of your team up for like success to be better in that role, but it's going to make future projects just better overall when your team is getting constructive feedback along the way.
Totally.
And that's one of the things that we try to do as well. We don't do it in the form of a meeting. We typically just do like little like notes on the project, but it's like I've seen those notes help our team grow and myself grow as well, as someone who's actively on set very often, getting the feedback of, you know, this didn't, you know, get executed as good as it could have. I'm going to be set up for success better on the next time.
Totally. One of my things is like, if I make a mistake, like I never want to make it again.
Right.
And so like I want to know, and then I want to learn from it, and I want to make sure that I don't do that thing again if that's what was causing the mistake, you know? So
That's good, man. Where do you think that we are headed in the filmmaking industry right now, or should be focusing on?
Man, where are we headed? I think, I mean, it's like film in general, like it really interests me because I'd love, like, it's so easy to make a short film these days. Like, it's not easy, but it's easy. You have the tools at your disposal. You have the people. You don't need a lot. You can use your iPhone. You know, there's all sorts of ways you could go about it. But I think like it's so easy to make something these days that it's like there's cool stuff coming out, and they don't have all the gear, they don't have all the big budgets. And so I think that's like what's really cool about the industry is like even just, you know, seeing some of these like big budget movies that don't have as big of a budget, they look like they do just because of the way that the people executed, you know? So I think that industry is like, it is really interesting. Like, you know, the Barbie movie just came out, and it was like the highest grossing female director of all time. Like, it's incredible. Like, you go see that movie, and it's like the set design was like all practical stuff. Like, it was killer, you know? And so I think like that's what's so cool is like people can be ultra creative today because there's so much stuff around them. So yeah, I mean, it's just like the sky's the limit. It's definitely you know, I try not to compare myself too much to other people, because I feel like comparison's the thief of joy, you know? And so I think, you know, trying to not look at something like the Barbie movie and be like, oh, I'm never going to be there, because I bet Greta Gerwig wasn't ever like, we're going to make this massive thing, when she was, you know, she probably had that thought in her brain, but she probably had the same thing that's going through your head. Like, man, we're just not there yet. Like, we don't have those big budgets. So yeah, I mean, I think it's so creative. It's crazy. Everything's just like at your disposal now.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's a level playing field. I think that's such a, and so then creativity wins.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Creativity wins. And storytelling wins, right?
Yeah.
So now it doesn't matter what you're using. There's just so much access to be able to be a creative and tell stories.
Yep, 100%.
I love it, man. Who is one filmmaker that you admire and why?
Who's one filmmaker that I admire? Man, I think he was kind of a little bit of a little rude maybe, but like, I mean, obviously Stanley Kubrick, like, I mean, I took this class on him, so it was like, it was crazy cool to see how his mind worked. And like, he'd do these uncomfortably long takes, and he would, you know, he worked his actors to a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was a lot of like things that would come out about how many takes he would do. Like, they'd get it on the third one and they'd do 68 takes, you know. And I think like that's one person, like, obviously he's not here anymore, like living filmmaker. I don't know. I mean, Jordan Peele, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if I'm talking like about somebody like that, I think Jordan Peele, like, he's kind of done something different than your traditional.
He's shaking up the film industry 100%.
Yeah. So I really love like what he's doing. I love all of his films. Yeah, man, he's
so
definitely
sick.
one.
It's been so exciting to see his trajectory, and I feel like he's just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, only made like 5 films or something like that now, but dude, his films are out of this world.
Well, and I mean, Key and Peele too was like so
Oh,
killer before that.
But it's so funny, like, how different the films are from the stuff that he used to make, like in that like raunchy comedy type like genre, and then he comes out with these crazy like super high intel, like, make you think movies, and it just shows like his range as an artist. And I'm excited to see the next movie that he makes, man.
For sure.
Wait, I gotta know, since you took the Kubrick class, did he film the fake moon landing and we never went to the moon?
They didn't go over that one.
But it's all over the media right now.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, probably.
I've seen some crazy
2001.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yes, they're
recently.
going back now, though.
They have some interviews from him.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It totally could have happened. I mean, like, if you watch like 2001: A Space Odyssey, like, you could totally see that. Yeah.
So sick, man. Well, dude, we have really appreciated your time, your wisdom, and thank you for coming to the studio. It's been exciting to hear your story, and it's exciting to see what y'all are going to do with the rest of this year, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
For people that want to connect with you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, at 12 midnight, it's TWLV, the 12 without the vowels. So at 12 midnight, pretty much everywhere. But yeah.
So sick, man. Well, thank you again for dropping by the studio. This has been an amazing episode, and I will be signing off for Shane, the conspiracy theorist, right, Zammer, on this episode of the Rough Cut Club.
Go to the moon.